3 days after the battle, Kepler 7 station was still recovering. Repair crews worked around the clock, fixing damaged sections and replacing destroyed systems. Medical bays were full of wounded from both the station and Admiral Soon-hee's ship. The casualty count could have been much worse, but 47 people had died during the attack. 47 people who went to work that morning thinking it was just another day. Taemin stood in the observation deck, looking out at the debris field where the battle had taken place. Pieces of destroyed Kryn ships floated in the void, along with parts of assault pods and shattered station components. It looked peaceful now, but he knew he would never forget the sound of those alarm klaxons or the feeling of helplessness as he watched ships shooting at each other. Ji-woo found him there. She had a bandage on her arm from a minor injury during the evacuation, but otherwise she looked fine. "Admiral Soon-hee wants to see us," she said. In the command center, they walked through the station together, passing repair crews and exhausted security officers. People nodded to them as they passed. Word had spread about what they did during the battle. Some people called them heroes. Taemin did not feel like a hero. He felt like someone who had stumbled into something terrible and barely survived. The command center was quieter now. Most of the emergency staff had been released. Commander Yoon Seo was there, along with Admiral Soon-hee, Hyun-woo, and several officials Taemin did not recognize. They all looked tired. "Thank you for coming," Admiral Soon-hee said when they entered. "Please, sit down. We have a lot to discuss." She activated a display screen. "In the past 3 days, the evidence we broadcast has caused chaos across the galaxy. The Velthera Directorate is in turmoil. 12 high-ranking officials have been arrested. 20 more have fled, probably to Kryn space. The legitimate Velthara government is conducting massive investigations into military and corporate corruption." "What about the Kryn Empire?" Taemin asked. "They are denying everything, of course, but we captured crew members from the ships that attacked us. They are talking. Under galactic law, attacking a neutral station is an act of war. The Kryn are facing serious diplomatic consequences." Commander Yoon Seo spoke up. "The Station Council has issued a formal apology to you both. They also voted to give you compensation for what you endured. It is not much, but it is something." "We do not need compensation," Ji-woo said. "We need to know that this will not happen again." "That brings me to the main reason I asked you here," Admiral Soon-hee said. She looked at Taemin. "I want to explain about the transmission you heard. The one from the Kryn flagship. The architect." The name sent a chill through Taemin. "What is the architect?" "We do not know exactly. It could be a person. It could be an organization. But Colonial Defense Intelligence has been tracking patterns for years now. Strange events. Conspiracies that seem unconnected but share similar methods. Someone or something has been manipulating galactic politics for a long time." She brought up more data on the screen. "The Velthera Kryn conspiracy was just one operation. We have found evidence of similar schemes involving other species. Someone is working behind the scenes, creating conflicts and profiting from them. They have resources, intelligence networks, and influence at the highest levels of multiple governments." "Why?" Taemin asked. "What do they want?" "That is the question we are trying to answer. But based on what we found in those files, Project Severance appears to be specifically targeted at humanity. Someone wants to isolate Earth and prevent humans from becoming a major galactic power." Hyun-woo leaned forward. "Why would anyone fear humanity? We are newcomers. We have been in space for less than a century. Most species barely take us seriously." "That might be exactly why," Admiral Soon-hee said. "Think about what humans have accomplished in such a short time. We went from primitive rockets to faster-than-light travel in 70 years. We established colonies on 40 worlds in 2 generations. Most species took thousands of years to reach that level of expansion." "You are saying someone is afraid of what we might become?" Ji-woo asked. "Yes, and they are taking steps to stop us before we can reach our full potential." The Admiral looked at both of them seriously. "I am telling you this because you deserve to know the truth, but also because I want to offer you both positions." Taemin felt his stomach tighten. "What kind of positions?" "Colonial Defense Intelligence is forming a special task force to investigate the architect and related conspiracies. We need people who can think creatively, who can see patterns others miss. You proved you have those abilities." Taemin shook his head. "I am a mechanic. I am not a spy or an investigator." "You are someone who found something that professional intelligence agents missed for 12 years, Admiral Soon-hee replied. "You are someone who improvised a weapon system from cargo equipment in the middle of a battle." Those are exactly the kind of skills we need. I appreciate the offer, Taemin said carefully, but that is not the life I want. I fix things. That is what I am good at. The Admiral nodded, not looking surprised. I understand. But you should know that the architect now knows who you are. They know what you are capable of. Whether you want to be involved or not, you are part of this now. It was not a threat, just a statement of fact. And Taemin knew she was right. He had uncovered something that powerful people wanted hidden. They would not forget that. What about you? Admiral Soon Hee asked Jiwoo. You have military training. You have skills that would be valuable to us. Jiwoo was quiet for a long moment. Then she spoke softly. I left military service because I was tired of fighting. Tired of seeing people die for causes that politicians decided were important. She looked up. But this is different. This is not about politics. This is about protecting innocent people from those who would use them as pawns. So you will join us? Not as a field agent. I am done with that life, but I could work as a liaison between civilian engineers and colonial defense, help bridge the gap between military and civilian sectors, make sure information flows both ways. Admiral Soon Hee smiled. That would be extremely valuable. Welcome aboard, she turned to Hyunwoo. Commander, I understand the Station Council has offered you a promotion. Head of a new joint species task force investigating cross-border crimes. Hyunwoo nodded. I accepted. It is a good opportunity to do real work instead of just maintaining order on a station, and I will be able to investigate leads related to the architect from a different angle than military intelligence. Good. We will need to coordinate our efforts. The Admiral stood up. Thank you all for coming. You are dismissed. Get some rest. You have earned it. As they left the command center, Taemin felt emotionally drained. Too much had happened in too short a time. He wanted nothing more than to go back to his quarters and sleep for 12 hours. But before he could leave, Commander Yoon Seo stopped him. Mr. Taemin, there is one more thing. We found something else in the impounded ship's computer. Something the investigators thought you should see. She handed him a data chip. It is encrypted, but we managed to crack part of it. The file contains coordinates to a location in unclaimed space, and there is a word attached to those coordinates. Genesis. Taemin turned the chip over in his hands. What does it mean? We do not know. But the encryption on that file was different from everything else, older. Much older. The language analysis suggests the word Genesis is in an ancient form of human language. From before we achieved spaceflight. That is impossible. How would files in a Velthara ship contain ancient human language? That is what makes it interesting, Commander Yoon Seo said. Someone has been watching humanity for a very long time. Maybe even before we left Earth. Whatever is at those coordinates, it might explain why the architect is so focused on stopping human expansion. Taemin pocketed the data chip. I will think about it. That night he could not sleep. He kept thinking about everything that had happened. 1 week ago he was just a mechanic fixing ships and getting paid. Now he was caught up in a conspiracy that spanned multiple species and stretched back decades, maybe longer. He pulled out the data chip and connected it to his personal datapad. The coordinates appeared on the screen, along with that single word, Genesis. The location was in deep space, far from any established trade routes or colonies. A place where no one would accidentally stumble across anything hidden there. His communicator buzzed. It was Jiwoo. Cannot sleep either? No, too much to process. I'm in the observation deck. Want some company? He met her there. They stood together, looking out at the stars. Earth's sun was visible as a bright point of light in the distance. Home, a place that now seemed both close and impossibly far away. What are you going to do? Jiwoo asked. About the coordinates? I do not know. Part of me wants to forget all of this, go back to fixing ships and living a quiet life. But you cannot do that now. No, I cannot. He looked at the data chip. I keep thinking about all those people who died because of this conspiracy. The Velthara soldiers in the fake battles, the people on the station. And if Project Severance succeeds, how many more will die? You are thinking about investigating those coordinates. Maybe, but not for colonial defense or any government agency. If I go looking, I go as myself. The command center of Kepler 7 station was chaos. Officers ran between workstations shouting reports and updates. Display screens showed the 3 approaching Kryn ships now less than 20 minutes away. Commander Yoon Seo stood in the center of it all, trying to maintain order while her face showed barely controlled panic. Admiral Soon Hee walked in like she owned the place. with Taemin, Jiwoo, and Hyunwoo following close behind. The Admiral's Marines took up positions by the doors. Commander Yunseo looked up and her expression shifted from panic to anger. "Admiral, this is a civilian station. You have no authority here. I must ask you to leave the command center. In approximately 18 minutes, 3 Kryn heavy cruisers are going to start shooting at your station." Admiral Soon-hee said calmly, "I have a battle cruiser that can help defend you. But first you need to see what we discovered." She gestured to Taemin, who connected his scanner to the main display. The files appeared on the screens where everyone in the command center could see them. The conspiracy, the smuggling operation, the fake battles, the planned attacks on human colonies. Commander Yunseo's face went through several emotions as she read. Disbelief, shock, horror, finally, anger. This cannot be real. The Velthara Directorate would never do this. Not the entire Directorate, Admiral Soon-hee said, but a faction within it. And they are desperate enough to attack this station to prevent this information from spreading. One of the station council members, a Velthara merchant named Ril then, stepped forward. He had been watching the screens with his 3 eyes wide. "These are lies, human propaganda designed to damage relations between our species. Then why are 3 Kryn warships about to attack a neutral station?" Jiwoo asked sharply. "If this is lies, why would the Kryn military be involved?" Ril then had no answer for that. Admiral Soon-hee brought up a communication channel. "This is Admiral Soon-hee of the Earth Colonial Defense Fleet to all vessels in the Kepler-7 system. I am broadcasting evidence of a conspiracy between corrupt Velthara officials and Kryn military forces. This evidence shows plans to attack human colonies and neutral stations. I am transmitting the data on all open channels now." "What are you doing?" Commander Yunseo asked. "Making sure the truth gets out," the Admiral replied. "Even if we do not survive the next hour, this information will spread across the galaxy. The conspirators cannot stop it now." The data transmission began. Within seconds, every ship in the system received the files. Every communication relay picked them up. The information started spreading through the galactic network like fire through dry grass. On the main display, the Kryn ships were now 15 minutes away. Their weapons were charging. They were not even trying to hide their hostile intent anymore. "Station defenses to full power," Commander Yunseo ordered. She had made her decision. All civilian ships evacuate to the far side of the station. Military vessels form defensive perimeter. Taemin watched the tactical display. Kepler-7 station had defensive weapons, but they were designed to handle pirates and small raiders. 3 Kryn heavy cruisers were a different level of threat entirely. The station's shields would hold for maybe 10 minutes under sustained fire. Then they would fail, and the weapons would tear through the station's hull like paper. Admiral Soon-hee's ship, the Indomitable, moved into position between the station and the approaching Kryn vessels. It was a battle cruiser, larger and more heavily armed than the Kryn ships. But 1 against 3 was not good odds. "This is insane," someone muttered. "We should surrender. Give them what they want." "They want us dead," Hyunwoo said quietly. "All of us. Everyone who knows the truth. Surrendering will not save anyone." The communication channels lit up. Ships docked at the station were responding to Admiral Soon-hee's broadcast. Several Velthara merchant vessels, their captains disgusted by what they had learned, volunteered to help defend the station. A group of independent freighters formed up together. Even some civilian pleasure yachts armed with hunting weapons moved into position. It was not much. Maybe 20 ships total, most of them lightly armed. But it was something unexpected happened. 2 of the Velthara crew members who had been detained with Captain Krillnax sent a message to the command center. They wanted to speak with Admiral Soon-hee. The Admiral had them brought up from detention. The 2 Velthara looked ashamed and angry. The taller one spoke first. "We did not know. We followed the captain's orders, but we did not know about the conspiracy. This dishonors our entire species." He pulled out a data pad. "We have information about the Kryn ships. Tactical data. Weaknesses in their shield configurations. Why help us?" Admiral Soon-hee asked. "Because this is not war. This is murder, and we will not be part of it." The Velthara crew members provided everything they knew: sensor frequencies, shield rotation patterns, weapon recharge times. It was not much, but Admiral Soon-hee's tactical officer studied the data carefully and started making adjustments to their defense plan. The Kryn ships were now 10 minutes away. close enough that their weapons could start hitting targets soon. Commander Yunseo opened a channel to the approaching vessels. Kryn ships, this is Kepler 7 station. You are violating neutral space. Turn back immediately. There was no response. The Kryn kept coming. All hands to battle stations, Commander Yunseo ordered. May whatever gods we believe in protect us. The first shots came 8 minutes later. One of the Kryn cruisers fired its main plasma cannons at the Indomitable. The battlecruiser's shields flared bright blue as they absorbed the impact. Admiral Sun Hee's ship returned fire, its railguns sending magnetically accelerated slugs at relativistic speeds toward the Kryn vessel. The battle had begun. The Indomitable fought like a cornered animal. It used the station's massive structure as cover, forcing the Kryn ships to split up to get clear firing angles. When they split up, Admiral Sun Hee's ship would focus all its weapons on one target, then quickly move before the others could coordinate their fire. It was brilliant tactics. But the Kryn had numbers. Every time the Indomitable damaged one ship, the other two would hammer it from different angles. The battlecruiser's shields were holding, but they were weakening. In the command center, Taemin watched the battle with his heart pounding. He felt useless. He was a mechanic, not a soldier. There was nothing he could do to help. Then one of the Kryn cruisers broke formation. It angled away from the Indomitable and headed straight for the station. On the tactical display, Taemin saw small objects launching from the Kryn ship. Assault pods, Hyunwoo said grimly. They are sending boarding parties. Target those pods, Commander Yunseo shouted. Defensive batteries, fire at will. The station's point defense weapons opened up, destroying several pods. But there were too many. At least 20 pods got through, and they were heading toward a specific section of the station. They are targeting the reactor level, a technician reported. If they breach the main reactor, the explosion will destroy the entire station. Taemin looked at the tactical display, his mind racing. The reactor level was deep in the station's core, protected by thick armor and multiple security doors. But those assault pods probably had breaching charges. They could cut through the armor given enough time. An idea formed in his head, a crazy, desperate idea. I can stop them, he said. Everyone looked at him. How? Commander Yunseo asked. The station's cargo handling system. We use industrial tractor beams to move large containers. They are powerful enough to grab a ship if they are focused properly. He pointed at the display. If we can retarget those tractor beams, we can grab the assault pods and throw them away from the station. The tractor beams are not weapons, a technician protested. They are not designed for that kind of precision targeting. But they could work, Taemin insisted. I have used those systems for 3 years. I know how they operate. Give me access to the cargo control station and I can do this. Commander Yunseo looked at Admiral Sun Hee. The Admiral nodded. Let him try. We have nothing to lose. Taemin ran from the command center with Jiwoo following. They raced through corridors filled with panicked civilians and security personnel. The cargo control station was 3 levels down, near the main docking bays. When they got there, the control room was empty. Everyone had evacuated to safer areas. Taemin slid into the operator's chair and pulled up the tractor beam controls. Jiwoo stood behind him, watching over his shoulder. Can you really do this? She asked. I have no idea, Taemin admitted, but I'm going to try. The assault pods were closing on the station's hull. Taemin targeted the nearest one with tractor beam 7. He adjusted the beam's frequency and power output, trying to get a solid lock on the small, fast-moving pod. The controls were not designed for this. They were meant for slowly moving large containers, not tracking military assault vehicles. But Taemin had spent 3 years learning every quirk of these systems. He knew how to override the safety limits, how to boost power beyond normal parameters. The tractor beam lashed out and caught the assault pod. Taemin felt a surge of triumph. Then the pod's engines fired, trying to break free. The tractor beam controls shrieked alarms as the system strained beyond its design limits. Come on, Taemin muttered, adjusting the power flow. The maintenance tunnels were cold and dark. Taemin and Jiwoo moved carefully through the narrow passages, trying not to make noise. These tunnels ran throughout the entire station like veins through a body. Only maintenance workers knew all the routes. It was the safest place to hide, at least for now. They found a small equipment room and locked themselves inside. Jiwoo used a medical kit from the wall to clean the cut on her forehead. Taemin's ankle was swelling, but he could still walk on it. They sat on the floor, backs against the wall, catching their breath. We need to contact Hyunwoo, Taemin said. Security needs to know what happened. I tried, Jiwoo replied. My communicator is not working properly. Someone is jamming the security frequencies. That was not good news. Jamming communications required serious equipment. It meant whoever was after them had resources and technical capability. An hour later, they heard footsteps in the tunnel outside. Both of them tensed, ready to run. Then a familiar voice called out quietly, Taemin, Jiwoo? It is me, Hyunwoo. Are you in there? Taemin opened the door carefully. Hyunwoo stood in the tunnel with two other security officers, all of them looking grim. The security commander stepped inside the equipment room and closed the door behind him. I am glad you are both safe, Hyunwoo said. Your quarters were searched thoroughly. Whoever broke in was looking for something specific. What is going on? Jiwoo demanded. Why is no one protecting us? Hyunwoo looked uncomfortable. Commander Yunseo has ordered me to close the investigation. The pressure from Velthara authorities is too strong. The station council does not want a diplomatic incident. They are afraid of sanctions and trade restrictions. They tried to kill us, Taemin said, his voice rising. Does that not matter? It matters to me, Hyunwoo said firmly. That is why I am here. Officially, I am following orders. Unofficially, I think there is something much bigger happening. Something that the station council does not understand. He pulled out his data pad. I have been thinking about what Captain Krillnak said. Protocol 17. I searched through Velthara military databases. Protocol 17 is a code for extreme situations. It means eliminate all evidence and witnesses. So they are going to kill us, Jiwoo said flatly. If we let them, Hyunwoo replied. But I have an idea. If we can get more evidence from that ship, something too big for the station council to ignore, then maybe we can force them to act. Taemin understood what the security commander was suggesting. You want us to break into the impound bay? Access the ship's computer again? Yes, Jiwoo, I checked your background. You served in the military before coming to this station. You have training in security systems, Jiwoo's face hardened. That was a long time ago. I left that life behind, I know. And I would not ask if this was not important. But right now, you two are the only people I can trust. My own security force might have people working for the conspirators. I do not know who is loyal anymore. They were quiet for a moment. Then Jiwoo sighed. What the hell? I did not like those quarters anyway. She looked at Taemin. You saved my job when I first came to this station. I owe you. And besides, I am curious now. What could be so important that they would risk all this? The impound bay was heavily guarded, but Hyunwoo had access codes and authorization. He led them through the maintenance tunnels to a service entrance that bypassed the main security checkpoint. Two of his trusted officers stood watch while they entered the bay. The Velthara ship sat in the center of the bay, surrounded by scanning equipment and evidence markers. It looked innocent enough in the bright security lights. Just another merchant vessel, but Taemin knew better now. How much time do we have? Jiwoo asked. 30 minutes before the next security patrol, Hyunwoo said. After that, someone will notice the gap in coverage. They climbed aboard the ship. Taemin led them to the computer core while Jiwoo worked on bypassing the additional security locks that had been placed on the system. Her fingers moved quickly over the access panel, typing commands that Taemin did not understand. Whatever she had done in her military service, it had taught her skills that most inventory managers did not have. There, she said after 5 minutes. Security is disabled. You have full access. Taemin connected his scanner to the computer core and started pulling data from the hidden partition. This time he was not being careful or subtle. He copied everything he could find, dumping massive files into his scanner's storage. The data was encrypted, but maybe they could break the encryption later. As the files transferred, he noticed something strange. The hidden partition was much larger than it should be. It was not just ship identification codes. There were communication logs, financial records, and what looked like operational databases. This was not just a disguised military ship. It was a ship being used for something ongoing and complex. How much longer? Hyunwoo asked nervously, watching the door. Almost done, Taemin said. Just a few more minutes. Jiwoo was exploring the ship's other systems. She pulled up the navigation logs and frowned. Taemin, look at this. This ship has been to over 30 different systems in the past year. Most of them are in Kryn Empire territory. A Velthara ship operating freely in Kryn space? That made no sense. The two species were enemies. A Velthara merchant ship would be arrested or destroyed if it entered Kryn territory, unless someone in the Kryn Empire was expecting it. Unless this was all arranged, the data transfer completed. Taman pulled his scanner free and checked the files. Over 2 terabytes of data. It would take days to go through it all. But maybe somewhere in those files was the proof they needed. They left the ship and returned to the maintenance tunnels. Back in the equipment room, they connected Taman's scanner to a portable display and started looking through the files. Most of it was still encrypted, but some basic information was readable. What they found made them all fall silent. The ship was part of a covert operation that had been running for over 12 years. Multiple Velthara military vessels had been reported destroyed in border conflicts with the Kryn Empire, but they had not been destroyed. They had been repurposed, given false identities, turned into smuggling ships, and they were not smuggling weapons to criminals. They were smuggling Velthara military technology to the Kryn Empire, advanced navigation systems, weapons designs, shield generators, everything the Kryn needed to match Velthara military capability. This is treason, Hyunwoo said quietly. High-ranking Velthara officials are selling military secrets to their enemies. But it got worse. Taman found files about the border conflicts themselves, battle reports, casualty lists, tactical analyses. As he read through them, a horrible picture emerged. The conflicts were staged. Fake battles designed to cover up the smuggling operations. Ships would be reported destroyed in combat, but they were really just reassigned to the smuggling network. Thousands of Velthara soldiers had died in those conflicts, but they had not died fighting the Kryn. They had died because their own government needed casualties to make the fake battles look real. Who would do this? Jiwoo asked, her voice shaking with anger. Who would kill their own people for money? Taman kept digging through the files. He found financial records showing massive payments flowing from Kryn sources to Velthara officials. Names started appearing. High-ranking members of the Velthara Directorate. Military commanders. Corporate executives. The conspiracy involved dozens of powerful individuals across both species. Then he found something that made his blood run cold. A section of files labeled Human Expansion Threat Assessment. He opened it and started reading. The conspirators had been tracking human colony expansion. They saw humanity's growth as a threat to the established power structure. Humans were expanding too fast, claiming too many worlds, building too many ships. In another generation or two, humans might rival the older species in economic and military power. The files contained detailed intelligence about human colonies, locations, populations, defensive capabilities, and there were plans. Plans for coordinated strikes against undefended human settlements. Plans to slow humanity's expansion by destroying key colonies. They are going to attack us, Taemin said. The Kryn are planning to attack human colonies, and the Velthara conspirators are helping them. Hyunwoo grabbed the scanner and scrolled through the files himself. His face went pale as he read. This is an act of war. If the Kryn attack human colonies, Earth will have to respond. It could trigger a full-scale conflict. That might be the point, Jiwoo said. Keep humanity fighting the Kryn while the Velthara conspirators profit from both sides. Sell weapons to the Kryn, then sell defensive systems to humanity. Make money from the war they started. Before they could discuss it further, alarms began blaring throughout the station. Hyunwoo's communicator buzzed urgently. He answered it and listened for a moment, his expression growing darker. The 3 unidentified ships at the system's edge. They just moved. They are heading toward the station at high speed, broadcasting Kryn military identification codes. He looked at Taemin and Jiwoo. We need to move. Now. They ran through the maintenance tunnels heading toward the station's command center. But before they could get there, they ran into a security checkpoint. 4 guards stood blocking their path. Taemin stepped away from the window and let the shade fall closed. His hands were shaking slightly. He told himself he was being paranoid. The captain could not possibly know what he had discovered. There was no way for the Velthara to know that Taemin had searched that registry code. The station's database was public. Searches were not logged or monitored, but the way the captain had been standing there perfectly still, staring across the station, it felt wrong. It felt deliberate. Taemin did not sleep well that night. He kept waking up listening to the normal sounds of the station. The hum of the air recyclers, the distant clang of cargo being moved in the freight sections, the muffled voices of people passing in the corridor outside his door. Every sound made him tense, wondering if someone was coming for him. When his alarm went off at 6 in the morning, he felt exhausted. He showered, dressed in his work clothes, and headed to the workshop. The station was in its morning cycle, with the lights gradually brightening to simulate a sunrise. Food vendors were setting up their stalls in the market corridors. Workers from various species headed to their jobs, creating the usual morning crowd. Everything seemed normal. Taemin started to feel foolish about his fears from the night before. He was letting his imagination run wild. The captain had probably just been checking on his ship. That was a normal thing for ship captains to do. The workshop was empty when he arrived. Brack usually came in an hour later, and the other mechanics worked different shifts. Taemin liked these quiet morning hours. He could work without interruptions, just him and the machines. He made coffee using the ancient machine in the break room, then settled at his workbench to finish up some paperwork for the Velthara job. The ship was repaired and ready to go. He just needed to close out the work order and send the invoice to the captain. The workshop's main door opened with a hydraulic hiss. Taemin looked up, expecting to see Brack or maybe one of the early shift workers. Instead, Captain Krillnax walked in, followed by 2 other Velthara crew members. They were large, wearing the kind of reinforced clothing that could hide weapons. Their 3 eyes scanned the workshop with cold efficiency. Taemin stood up slowly from his workbench. "Captain, your ship is ready." "I was just finishing the paperwork." Krillnax moved closer. The workshop suddenly felt much smaller. "I need to discuss something with you, mechanic. Something important, of course. What can I help you with?" "Last night you accessed station databases. You searched for something." The captain's voice was flat, emotionless. "What did you find?" Taemin's heart sank. They knew. Somehow they knew. He tried to keep his voice steady. "I was just verifying some component codes. Standard procedure. Do not lie to me." Krillnax stepped closer and Taemin could smell the alien scent of him like copper and ozone. "You found the registry code. You know what it means. There was no point in denying it." Taemin took a step back, his mind racing. "Look, I do not want any trouble. I fixed your ship. That is all. Whatever else is going on, it is not my business." One of the Velthara crew members moved to block the door. The other one casually pulled out a small device that Taemin recognized with growing horror. It was a neural disruptor, a weapon that was banned on civilian stations because it could kill without leaving obvious marks. "You are correct that it is not your business," Krillnax said quietly. "Unfortunately, you made it your business when you started searching databases. Now I have a problem. I cannot allow you to share what you discovered." Taemin looked around desperately. The workshop was in a remote section of the station, and it was early morning. No one would come looking for him for hours. The nearest security station was 3 corridors away. Even if he screamed, no one would hear him over the noise of the machinery and air systems. "I will not tell anyone," Taemin said. "I promise. Just take your ship and go." "Humans make promises they cannot keep," Krillnax replied. "Your species is young and foolish. You think the truth matters more than survival. You would report what you found, believing it is the right thing to do. I cannot take that risk." The captain nodded to the crew member with the neural disruptor. The weapon began to hum as it charged up. Taemin felt his mouth go dry. This was really happening. He was going to die in this workshop and no one would even know why. The main door suddenly slammed open with a bang that echoed through the workshop. Jiwoo, who ran the parts inventory for the facility, stood in the doorway with 3 station security officers behind her. 2 were massive Thronic guards and 1 was human. They all had shock batons drawn and ready. "Step away from him," Jiwoo shouted. Her voice carried the kind of authority that came from someone who did not tolerate nonsense. "Station security, weapons down now." The Velthara with the neural disruptor hesitated. Krillnax's 3 eyes narrowed, calculating odds. For a long moment, nobody moved. The workshop was frozen like a photograph. Then the human security officer, a man named Hyan Wu, stepped forward. "Captain Krillnax, you are in violation of station weapons regulations. Drop the neural disruptor and put your hands where we can see them, all of you." The standoff continued for another heartbeat. Then Krillnax made a small gesture and his crew members lowered their weapons. The Thronic guards moved in quickly, disarming the Velthara and securing their hands with restraint fields. Yanwu approached Taemin. "Are you all right?" Taemin nodded, not trusting his voice. His legs felt weak and he had to lean against his workbench for support. Jiwoo came over and put a hand on his shoulder. She was a tough woman, shorter than Taemin but with an intensity that made people listen when she spoke. I saw them hanging around the workshop last night. Something felt wrong. I kept an eye on the security feeds this morning and saw them come in. Figured you might need backup. Thank you, Taemin managed to say. You saved my life. As the security officers led the Velthara toward the door, Krillnex turned his head to look at Taemin. The captain's face was unreadable, but his voice carried clearly across the workshop. The Directorate knows. Protocol 17. Then they were gone, taken away to the station's detention facility. Hyunwoo stayed behind, pulling out a datapad to take Taemin's statement. What did the captain mean by that? Hyunwoo asked. The Directorate knows? Protocol 17? Taemin explained everything. The hidden registry code, the database search, the discovery that the ship was really a military vessel reported destroyed years ago. Hyunwoo listened carefully, his expression growing more serious with each detail. This is bigger than I thought, Hyunwoo said when Taemin finished. I need to report this to Commander Yunseo. If what you are saying is true, we might have a serious situation on our hands. Over the next few hours, more security personnel arrived. The Velthara ship was officially impounded and moved to a secure bay. Specialists began examining it more carefully, and Taemin was asked to show them exactly what he had found. In the ship's cargo hold, hidden beneath legitimate cargo containers, they found something that made everyone stop and stare. Unmarked crates, 24 of them, each bearing the seal of the Kryn Empire. The Kryn were the Velthara's traditional enemies. There had been border conflicts between them for decades. Why would a Velthara ship be smuggling Kryn military equipment through neutral space? Hyunwoo opened one of the crates carefully. Inside were weapons. Advanced plasma rifles with power cells that could punch through combat armor. These were not civilian weapons. They were military grade, the kind used by Kryn special forces. We need to lock down this entire section, Hyunwoo said to his officers. No one in or out without authorization. And someone get Commander Yunseo down here immediately. That afternoon, Taemin was called to the station commander's office. Commander Yunseo was a middle-aged human woman who had been running Kepler-7 station for 5 years. She looked tired and stressed as she reviewed the reports on her desk. Mr. Taemin, you have created quite a situation, she said. I have received 3 official communications from Velthara diplomatic authorities. They are demanding the immediate release of Captain Krillnex and his crew. They are threatening sanctions against this station if we do not comply. But they tried to kill me, Taemin protested. And they are smuggling weapons. I know. And we have opened a formal investigation. But the Velthara Directorate has significant influence in this sector. They are applying pressure through channels I cannot ignore. She rubbed her temples as if fighting off a headache. There is something else. 3 unidentified ships appeared at the edge of this system 2 hours ago. They are holding position just outside our defense perimeter. They have not responded to any hails. Hyunwoo, who was also in the office, pulled up a star chart on the wall display. 3 red dots marked the positions of the unknown ships. They formed a triangle around the station's approach vectors. Could be pirates, Hyunwoo suggested, or smugglers waiting for their cargo. Or something worse, Commander Yunseo said quietly. That night, someone tried to break into Taemin's quarters. He woke to the sound of his door lock being overridden. Years of living in less than safe places had taught him to be a light sleeper. He rolled out of bed and grabbed the only weapon he had, a heavy wrench from his toolkit. The wrench slipped from Taemin's greasy fingers and clattered against the metal floor of the workshop. He cursed under his breath and wiped his hands on his already filthy work pants. The Velthara ship sitting in Bay 7 was giving him more trouble than he expected. Its engine systems were a mess of tangled wiring and damaged components that someone had tried to patch up, using the wrong parts. Taemin crawled back under the access panel and squinted at the bundle of cables above his head. The fluorescent lights in the workshop flickered occasionally, casting strange shadows that made it hard to see properly. He had been working on this ship for 6 hours straight, and his back was starting to hurt. The station's lower deck workshops were not designed for comfort. They were designed to be cheap and functional, nothing more. The Velthara captain had not been happy about bringing his ship to a human-run workshop. Taemin could tell by the way the tall alien looked down at him with those 3 unblinking eyes. The Velthara were an old species, one of the founding members of the Galactic Trade Council. They had been traveling between stars for thousands of years before humans even figured out how to leave Earth. To them, humans were babies, newcomers who barely understood the technology they used. But every other repair facility on Kepler 7 station was fully booked. A massive convoy had arrived 2 days ago, and all the premium workshops were occupied. So Captain Krillnax had no choice but to hire Taemin's small operation. The captain made it very clear that he expected fast work and no mistakes. Then he left, probably to avoid having to watch a human fumble around with his precious ship. Taemin did not mind the attitude. He was used to it. After 3 years working on the station, he had learned that actions spoke louder than words. He would fix the ship, do it well, and collect his payment. That was how things worked. He pulled himself out from under the panel and moved to the main diagnostic console. The screen showed a long list of system errors. Most of them were minor things related to the engine damage. But one error kept appearing no matter what he fixed. It was an electrical fault somewhere in the central computer system. The readings made no sense. Power was flowing to systems that should not even be active. Taemin frowned and pulled up the ship's electrical schematic. He traced the power flow with his finger on the screen, following the lines from the main power core through the distribution nodes. Everything looked normal on the diagram, but the readings told a different story. Somewhere there was a hidden power drain. He grabbed his portable scanner and climbed up the ladder to the ship's upper deck. The central computer core was located behind the bridge in a sealed compartment that required special authorization to access, but the Velthara captain had given him full access codes. He needed the ship fixed after all. The computer core hummed quietly in its climate-controlled chamber. Banks of crystalline processors lined the walls, glowing with soft blue light. Taemin connected his scanner to the primary access port and started running deep diagnostics. He was not a computer expert, but he knew enough to troubleshoot power issues. Hardware problems were hardware problems, whether they were in engines or computers. The scanner beeped and displayed its findings. There was a partition in the system that was not showing up on the normal diagnostic tools, a hidden section of memory that was drawing power, but not appearing in any of the ship's official logs. Taemin felt a small spark of curiosity. Merchant ships sometimes had hidden storage for valuable data or private communications. It was not his business to pry into such things, but the power drain was causing system instability. If he did not fix it, the ship's computer could crash during flight. That would be dangerous, possibly fatal. He had to at least identify the source of the problem. He modified his scanner settings and ran a deeper probe. The hidden partition appeared on his screen, encrypted with military-grade security. That was strange. Civilian encryption was usually much simpler. Military encryption on a merchant vessel made no sense. It was like putting a bank vault door on a storage closet. Taemin chewed his lip, thinking he should probably tell the captain about this. But the captain had been so dismissive, so rude. Would he even listen? And if this was something illegal, would reporting it get Taemin in trouble? Station security tended to blame human workers for problems, assuming they had messed something up rather than discovered something real. He decided to take a different approach. He would copy the partition's identification code and check it against public databases. Every ship component had registration numbers and identification codes that were logged in various systems. If this hidden partition contained ship records or identification data, he might be able to figure out what it was without actually breaking the encryption. The copying process took 10 minutes. Taemin's scanner was old and slow, but it got the job done. When it finished, he disconnected from the computer core and climbed back down to the workshop floor. His supervisor, an old Thronic engineer named Brack, was checking inventory in the parts room. Taemin stuck his head through the doorway. Brack was a decent boss for the most part. He treated human workers fairly and paid on time. That was more than some other workshops could claim. "Hey, Brack, I found something weird in the Velthara ship," Taemin said. Brack did not look up from his datapad. "Weird how?" "Hidden partition in the computer core. Military-grade encryption. Seems odd for a merchant vessel." Now Brack looked up. His 4 eyes focused on Taemin with an expression that might have been concern. "You open it?" "No. Just found it while tracing an electrical fault." Brack was quiet for a moment. Then he shook his massive head. Merchant ships have secrets, not our problem. Fix the electrical issue and move on. Do not look for trouble, Taemin. Trouble finds you easily enough on this station. It was good advice. Taemin nodded and went back to work. He rerouted some power conduits to bypass the hidden partition, eliminating the electrical interference. The diagnostic console showed all green lights. The ship was fixed. He could close the work order and be done with it. But that night, lying in his small quarters in the station's residential section, Taemin could not stop thinking about the hidden partition. His curiosity itched at him like an unreachable spot on his back. He pulled out his personal data pad and accessed the station's public database network. Just a quick search, just to satisfy his curiosity. He entered the identification code he had copied from the hidden partition. The search ran for several seconds, then returned a result. Taemin sat up in bed, his heart suddenly beating faster. The code belonged to a Velthara military corvette. The ship's name was Righteousness Ascending. It had been reported destroyed 12 years ago during a border conflict with the Kryn Empire. The ship had been carrying classified weapons prototypes when it was lost. The entire crew was declared dead, and the wreckage was never recovered. But the ship currently sitting in Bay 7 was a civilian transport. Its official registration said it was built only 5 years ago by a commercial shipyard. The hull numbers did not match. The specifications did not match. Nothing matched except that hidden registry code buried deep in the computer core. Taemin stared at his datapad screen, his mouth dry. Either someone had installed military components in a civilian ship, or someone had faked the destruction of a military vessel and disguised it as a civilian transport. Both possibilities were serious crimes. Both possibilities suggested something much bigger and more dangerous than a simple repair job. He looked out the small window of his quarters. From here, he could see across the station's central hub to the repair bays on the far side. Bay 7 was visible in the distance, the Velthara ship sitting dark and quiet under the dim maintenance lights. As he watched, a figure appeared in the bay's observation window. It was Captain Krillnax. The Velthara captain stood motionless, his 3 eyes fixed on something. Taemin felt a chill run down his spine when he realized what the captain was looking at. He was looking directly at Taemin's quarters.